Welcome, class. I am giving this online lecture for two purposes. The first is that these are some tools or tasks that you're going to need to know how to complete in order to do the research necessary for your memorandum in your legal writing class. And second, this just moves us forward in our progress in the legal research class as we look more in depth at using head notes, the key numbers, the digest system to find more relevant cases on Westlaw and Lexis. But first we're going to talk about statutes a little bit because there may be a statute involved in your memorandum assignment. So let's assume that our issue that is facing us is an Ohio state law issue. And what has happened is that your client is coming into your office, and his child was playing in their backyard, a small boy, aged 6, and the neighbor's dog wandered into your client's backyard, and it appeared that the child was playing with the dog, and then the dog viciously attacked your client's child, ultimately ended up biting his ear off, lacerating his arm, other damage to the face, pretty severe damage. And in the process of the vicious attack, your client ran out to the backyard with his handgun and shot the dog, killing the neighbor's dog. In a lawsuit, your client wants to file a lawsuit, and the neighbor has told your client that his dog acted in the manner that he did only because your client's child was tormenting or teasing the dog, and therefore it's not the neighbor's dog's fault or the neighbor's fault because the child was tormenting the dog. So we want to see if there's an Ohio statute that may be relevant. In your memorandum assignment, you may be given a statute citation, and you could simply type in the citation here on the main page in the main search bar. So if you knew what the citation is, and I'm just going to say, just to start out with, we know what it is. It's the Ohio Revised Code, section 955.28. You can hit enter or search, and it's going to go to that particular Ohio Revised Code section. If you didn't know what the particular section was that was relevant, you could find this in a number of different ways. If you start to type in the search bar here on the main page, Ohio statutes index, you'll see that the index to the Ohio statutes is an option. You could click on that, and here you're going to have the index to the Ohio statutes. This will be an index just like you would see in any regular book that you have. So just think of it in that manner. And you would look for words that are relevant. I'm going to try to be as specific as I possibly can, so I'm going to start with D. I'm looking for dogs. We scroll down here. And at some point, we might see the word dogs. There it is. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to scan through these topics that are underneath dogs in the index to see if I find anything about tormenting or bites. I think I saw bites up here. Let's see. Bites. Click on that. I don't really see what I want here, so let's go back. What else do we know? We know that our client killed the dog. Oh, look, here's killing dogs. There are 3 statutes listed. So you would look at each one. I'm just going to let you know that this Ohio statute, section 955.28, is the relevant one. So here we are. This is dog may be killed for certain acts. Okay. So here we found a relevant statute in that manner. Let's go back to the main Westlaw search page. And if you didn't know what the Ohio revised, or what the Ohio statutes were called, the Ohio Revised Code, or if you just wanted to see what was available for Ohio, you could start looking for the statutes this way. You could click on the State Materials tab right here. Then you could click on Ohio right here. And this is going to give you a list of all the Ohio-specific databases that are available in Westlaw. Here is statutes and court rules. So let's click on the Ohio Statutes and Court Rules link. And if you notice up here in the search bar, it now says you're going to be searching Ohio Statutes and Court Rules. And let's search for dog within the same paragraph of tormenting or torments. So what I'm going to do is type the word torment and then use an exclamation point, because what that tells the database is that you want every word that starts T-O-R-M-E-N-T and anything that follows it. So this would search for torments, tormenting, tormented, etc. And I put dog within the same paragraph because that's going to probably find relevant information. So now let's click search button. And this returns 10 results. The first one is the one that we know is relevant. Although you could look, you would, in your first go round, probably want to look at all of these things to see exactly what they are. But let's click on this first one, the section 955.28. And now we have the statute. Notice the link up here at the top that says currentness. If you click on that, it takes you down here and, well, didn't do quite what I wanted it to do. Down here at the very bottom of the page, it tells you that it's current through 2017 File 20 of the 132nd General Assembly for Ohio, which means it's pretty current. It's as current as you're going to get. Let's go back up to the top. So here's the text of the statute. This credits, where it says credits, and you see this area here that I'm highlighting, this can be useful, will be useful when we talk about legislative history research, but we're going to ignore that for right now. Up at the top, you'll see something called Notes of Decisions. And if you click on that, what this is a list of the subtopics, if you will, of cases, a list of topics that cases were decided on dealing with this statute. So if you just scanned this list, you'll see if anything pops out that seems relevant. And there may be more than one that seems relevant, but let's scan all of them first to see if we see something that jumps out. Okay, here's 9 and 10. Teasing, tormenting, or abusing dog. 9 is in general, and 10 is dog of young child. So let's click on the 9, 10. And what that's going to do is drop us down to cases that are dealing with this specific topic that we find in the statute. And what you actually have here, these small paragraphs, are basically the headnote paragraph from cases. So we could read through these and see if we see any cases that seem relevant to our situation. Let's see. For purposes of exception to dog bite statute, under which owner of dog may avoid strict liability for dog bite, the person was bitten, was teasing, tormenting, abusing the dog at the time of injury. Teasing means to annoy or to trouble or to worry persistently, to be troublesome or to pester, etc., etc., etc. That seems like it's relevant. Probably all of these are, but let's just click on the Quellos case as being something that we're interested in looking at this point. So now we're on the Quellos case. You can find relevant cases, additional relevant cases from the Quellos case, and we talked about this a little bit in our last class. What you'd want to do is, you can do this really in a number of ways, but first you'd want to scan the headnotes and find the one that seems to be the most relevant. So some of these down here, 11, 12, and 13. Let's see, teasing, tormenting. So this one seems pretty relevant, as does number 12 and 13. But let's just take head note 11, and let's click on this link here that says 3 cases that cite this head note. Okay, now we have 3 cases, and these are going to be cases that have specifically cited the Quellos case. Okay, so these are going to be cases that are citing that head note and specifically citing the Quellos case. So if we clicked on the Flum case versus Summit County, and if you scroll through, you will eventually see in yellow highlight where it's talking about the Quellos case and talking about this particular issue. Let's go back to Quellos. So I'm just going to hit the back button a couple of times. You can also click on the word provocation. Now remember what this is here is this is the topic, and this is the key number or the key topic, provocation. So animals, provocation. So we're going to click on provocation. And what this is going to do is bring up all the cases in Ohio that have that same key number, topic and key number in it. Now, it says 7 here, and it doesn't mean there are 7 different cases. It could mean that there are multiple times that head note was in a case. So if you see here, the Quellos is listed twice. So really, there are only 6 distinct cases, 7 times, though, that the head note was used. And so you'd want to look at these other cases because these are going to be cases from Ohio dealing specifically with that head note, the issue that we found in that head note. And you can tell that it's sorted by topic and then date. So here's the most recent case, Ali versus Lucas County. You can change that to topic and then most cited. And so it's going to rearrange the order of these. It's going to put the cases that are most often cited for that head note at the top. So this Ramsey case from 1984 moves now up to the top instead of topic then date, which had the most recent case at the top, the Ali versus Lucas County case. Now, at the moment, we have this limited to just Ohio cases, but we can change that if we want. Up here where it says jurisdiction, Ohio State and Federal and change, we can click change. And remember, we talked about it in class. You just need one good case from any jurisdiction. You find the relevant head note and the relevant topic and key number, and now you can find cases from other jurisdictions. So let's say that we found this Ohio case, but we really wanted cases from any jurisdiction, any state. We're just interested in as many cases as we can find. So let's click change here. We're going to click all states, and then I'm going to unclick the include related federal, simply because this issue probably never or rarely has ever occurred in a federal court. And I'm going to click apply. Remember, we had 7 the first time with just Ohio. We now have 142. So we've expanded our list of cases. If we clicked this here, the plus sign next to jurisdiction, you could then select the individual cases you wanted. So let's say now you've decided, okay, that's great, but you're really interested in cases from Michigan. That seems to be close to Ohio, so maybe those Michigan cases could be persuasive cases that you could cite. So you would check Michigan, and then come down here and click Apply Filters. So now you're going to have Michigan cases dealing with that head note that we found in the Quellos case. I want to return to the statute that we were looking at earlier. So I'm going to click on the main link back to the home page, and I'm just going to enter in that, and it's section 955.28. Let's click search. Here we are back at that section of the Ohio Revised Code that we saw earlier. Remember, up here we have notes of decisions. That's how we got to the Quellos case, by clicking the 9 and 10 here. But if you go to citing references, these are going to be things that have discussed this issue, secondary sources typically. Now you'll see there are cases, trial court orders, administrative decisions. If you click that, I think you'll see it's an Ohio Attorney General opinion, on this issue. But let's look at secondary sources specifically, okay, which says there are 61 results. Click on that, and it tells you there are 3 ALR, that's American Law Report annotations. We haven't talked about ALR yet, but it's a big, often used secondary source. There are 5 law review articles and then 53 other secondary sources that deal with this issue. This could include legal encyclopedias, form books, pleading and practice treatises. But let's just kind of scroll through the list here and just see what is referenced. So here's some Ohio jury instructions. If we wanted just Ohio, let's see, Ohio Jur 3rd, that's Ohio Jurisprudence. It's the legal encyclopedia for Ohio. If you remember in class, I said that South Dakota doesn't have a state-specific encyclopedia, but Ohio is one of them that does. So a encyclopedia entry for your topic could be really useful, because what an encyclopedia entry is going to give is a pretty basic, clear statement of the law, and then it's going to cite you to additional resources, including cases, as well as other secondary sources that could be relevant. So let's look for a Ohio jurisprudence citation. So we're going to filter out the ALRs and law reviews by clicking on the other. Okay, and if you see down here, publication name, it says you can select a publication name. Let's do that. And let's pick Ohio Jurisprudence. That's all we want, which is the legal encyclopedia for Ohio. Here it is, Ohio Jur. So we click on that and say continue. And now we're going to say apply filters. And we've now limited our results to 5. And these are sections from the Ohio jurisprudence. And so we would want to look at all of these just to see if we see anything that is, see which one is most relevant. Maybe they all are. But let's just pick one to see if we can find something that may be useful. So I'm just going to choose this defenses to statutory liability, because that's really kind of what we're talking about. There was the neighbor is claiming that he has a defense to the injury caused by his dog. So we'll click on that. And now we are within the encyclopedia section as soon as it pops up. Okay, so here it is. It tells you what are the West key number that are relevant to this particular issue. So that's very useful. So it's animals and key number 66.53. So you could actually click here and get cases that are relevant. It tells you that there are some forms available. So an American jurisprudence pleading and practice forms. Then it tells you a little bit about the topic here. This is the actual encyclopedia entry. Okay, right here. Tells you the dog bite statute is a strict liability with only a few enumerated defenses. You'll see eventually then it talks about the offense against any person or was teasing, tormenting, or abusing the dog on the owner's, keeper's, or harborer's property. So, if you clicked on the 2, that drops you down to the footnote, and it tells you, it takes it right from that 955.28. If you click the 2, you go back up. You'll notice in the footnotes that you have some cases listed. So you might want to look at some of these cases, see if you find some additional interesting information. Here you see the Quellos case is cited in footnote 6. Footnote 6 says, the jury's verdict was against the manifest weight of the evidence, where it concluded that plaintiff was teasing, tormenting, or abusing the dog at the time of her injuries because, and then it gives you 3 things, but if you click on the footnote 6, you have the Quellos case. Notice on the right-hand side here, you have materials, sources that Westlaw predicts would be relevant to your issues. And so you have some secondary sources that are listed. You can click here and see more secondary sources. Here are some case briefs. You can click for more briefs. Here are trial court documents. So these are things that Westlaw thinks would be relevant to your situation. You can move between sections of the I'm sorry, I lost myself there for a second. You can move between the results list. Remember, we narrowed it down to 5 by clicking right here, or you can just return to that list. And so, like I said, you'd probably want to look at all 5 of these sections that were spit back at us to once we narrowed it to just Ohio jurisprudence to see what is relevant inside of those cases. What if you didn't know if Ohio had an encyclopedia and you wanted to search in the encyclopedia first, as opposed to getting to the encyclopedia through looking at the statute and then seeing what references have cited that statute? Well, let's just go to State Materials, click Ohio, scroll down, and you'll see here secondary sources are listed for Ohio, and one of them is Ohio jurisprudence. So we can click there. Now you are searching Ohio jurisprudence. If you click here, so we can put dog within the same paragraph as torment with the exclamation point. Click search. And it spits back 5 results. You'll see that the 74 we looked at is the first one that comes back. You could also do this in a different way. Here we are. This is what we saw when we first clicked on Ohio jurisprudence. This is the table of contents. You could go animals. So we're drilling down now in the table of contents. We're clicking on the plus sign next to animals. Looking at these subtopics, seeing if anything looks relevant. Here they have a particular section on regulation of dogs, so we could click there. There are two subsections, injury in general, and then injuries by dogs. Injuries to dogs, that could be relevant because we had your client who killed the dog. Or we could look here, injuries by dogs, statutory liability for injury or death. Let's see what's there. Here are those 73, 74, 75, and 76, which we know are relevant from our earlier searching. So you could go right into the Ohio jurisprudence and drill down through the table of contents. You could likewise click over here and go to the Ohio jurisprudence third general index. Now, if you remember in class, you often are going to go just straight to doing a natural language search or a Boolean search right into the resource that you want to search. But don't forget that sometimes you might have the terms not exactly right. And using either the table of contents or the index, you can find the terms that these issues are really indexed under. So let's see. We'll click on the index contents. And I would probably try to go as specific as I can in index. I've told you that before. Try to be as specific as you can and then broaden once you're in the index if you're not finding what you want. So I'm going to look for dogs. Scroll down to see dogs. Let's see. Dogs, dogs, dogs. Here we are. Click dogs. Now there are a bunch of subtopics in the index. And you would just kind of peruse these words and find anything that you think is relevant. I'm going to go to killing because we know. Here we go. Killing, dogs, actions, property dogs. I'd probably look at these two to see if they're relevant. Let's see if there's anything about if there's tormenting or teasing. No. Let's see if we see any other things that are relevant. Maybe like liability, injuries by dogs. You may look there because this is a defense to liability. Still looking, we're going to scroll through some of these. Here we go, defenses, injuries by dogs. That seems definitely relevant. So you would click there, and now you're in a particular Ohio jurisprudence encyclopedia entry. It's the one that we had looked at earlier. So I'm going to pause for a second as we switch to Lexis. Okay, here we are in Lexis Advance, and let's take pretty much the same process that we used for Westlaw. We're going to start out with a statute. If you knew what the statute was, you could type it in here. So Ohio Revised Code, section 955.28, and click search. It's going to take you straight to that section. Okay, this is the section we saw in Westlaw. Or you could say, okay, I wonder Ohio statute. You'll see sources, Ohio pages, Ohio Revised Code annotated. If you click on that, you now are in the Ohio Revised Code. You could drill down through the Table of contents. It's not a very detailed table of contents, so that might be kind of difficult. So let's go back. You could simply, you could search by state. So you click the state tab, go to Ohio. And just like Westlaw, it lists the sources that are available for Ohio. So you see here, Ohio statutes and legislation, Ohio pages, Ohio revised code. The I next to it gives you a description of what is in that actual database that you're getting ready to search. But let's click let's click Ohio pages, revised code. Sorry, go back, click Ohio pages, revised code. Here we are. And let's actually search inside of the Ohio revised code. We're going to put in our search terms dog within the same paragraph as torment with an exclamation point. Click the search button. And now you're going to get some 7 results. So if you were starting out, you would look at these through all of these 7 results to see what's relevant. We know that the 955.28 is relevant, so we're going to go ahead and click on that. You're now within the Ohio Revised Code at section 955.28. And it has a lot of the same features that we saw on Westlaw. So if you scroll down, it gives you the history. Remember I said this information will be useful if you were doing a legislative history project. And we'll talk about that later in class, so you can ignore that now. Then it has annotations, which if you see, I clicked on that and they go away. But if you click on that, click on it, they come back. Okay, these are the subtopics, basically, where notes to decisions. So cases that have cited the statute, here are sort of the subtopics within that of all those cases that have cited the statute. So we could scroll through here looking for cases that may be or subjects that might be relevant. The defense's subject we know could be relevant. And then here's one, teasing, tormenting, or abusing dog. That definitely sounds relevant. So if you click on this little blue arrow, it's going to jump you down and show you cases that have cited this statute. We know that we found Quellos the first time, but here it does not appear as if Quellos is listed under this. So here you see some slightly different results between the databases. But if you look at the brief little headnote paragraphs that are here, I think that the Olmstead case seems pretty relevant. So we're going to click on that. You now are in the Olmstead case. And you could now look at the headnotes, finding the headnote that is relevant. Here, harm caused by animal defenses, headnote 5. You can now click on the more like this headnote. More like this headnote. Okay? Click on that. And you're saying, look, I want to find, oh, that's strange. Should not have done that. Look, you should have gone to a search page where you were allowed to search for additional cases with that same headnote. Let's go back. I'm not sure why it's doing that, but I'm going to try a workaround here. I'm going to copy the citation to this case. Let's see. Let's use this one. I'm going to copy that. And I'm just going to go back to the main page, and I'm just going to search for this case. I'm going to see what happens when I do that. Okay, here's the Olmsted case. I'm going to click on that again. Let's see if we can get to where I want to go. I'm not sure why it was screwed up there, but let's now click on, here's head note 5. Let's click on more like this head note. There's what we wanted. It returns 964 cases dealing with that head note. You'll see here that it has all kinds of jurisdictions that it searched. So you can limit it to just the jurisdiction you want. So Ohio Courts of Appeals cases. Notice that Lexis determines that 96 cases are relevant on that head note. You've expanded the number of cases we found that seem relevant to our situation than what we had seen in Westlaw, at least initially. You can do some other limiting here. You can limit it by date. This is interesting because what this shows you is when was your case most popular in the sense that people were citing it regularly. And if you can see here, it sort of had a peak time at probably about the year it was decided, which was 2013, up to about probably, 2016. So here's the peak, and now this head note is not being cited as much. So there was sort of a peak time period here where your head note was cited. You could limit it by attorney if you're searching for a particular attorney. You could pick the ones that are most cited. Here's the ones that it's listed as most cited. You can search within these results here, but let's first limit it to jurisdiction. We did that already. The Ohio Court of Appeals cases. You can change the sorting. Here we have relevance. You can do it date, newest to oldest. Let's try that. So here's the most recent case that Lexis has, this Walton versus Royal. Now you could click on any of these cases and begin to see what it's about. Here's that head note. Remember, harm caused by animals, statutory liability. There it is. So we have that. We know this case is going to be somewhat relevant. Let's go back now to the statute. Excuse me. Ohio Revised Code, section 955.28. Click search. Here we had the annotations, right? This is how we got to the cases we were just looking at. If you scroll to the bottom of the annotations, which are down here quite a ways, you now are going to get what it calls opinion notes. This is going to be that Attorney General opinion that we saw earlier on Westlaw. And then you're going to have research references and practice aids. These are going to be references to other sources that are going to be relevant. So here are some codes, comparative legislation. Here are some other codes. It tells you there's some practice manuals and treatises. There's some practice forms in a set called Anderson's Ohio Civil Practice Forms. But there are no, if you notice, mentions of the Ohio jurisprudence. We know there's an Ohio jurisprudence, but it's not being listed in these additional reference resources from this statute. So let's say we wanted to search Ohio revised or the Ohio jurisprudence. So we can do Ohio jurisprudence, and you'll see it pops up here, Ohio jurisprudence 3rd edition. We could drill down through the table of contents here. Animals, right? We know that there's, let's see, regulation of dogs. In general, we looked at earlier in Westlaw, an injury by dogs I think we looked here, statutory liability. We know that 73, 74, 75, and 76, those sections are relevant. I think we also determined that 56 might be relevant. So you would click on one that may be relevant, 74, and you get that list, just as we saw in Westlaw. You could also instead of drilling down through the table of contents, just enter your search terms here. See what we get. And we had 5 returns. Here's that section 74 that we've looked at before. You could, certainly do it that way. What if you didn't know? Let's say we didn't know that Ohio had an encyclopedia. We know that because we found it in Westlaw. But let's say we didn't know, and you wanted to see what Ohio had. You could click on the state tab, right? Then click Ohio. Let's see, secondary materials. Ohio jurisprudence third. So you could click on that, and now we're back to where we were. So whatever your jurisdiction is for your legal memo, you're writing your memo assignment, you're going to want to check to see if there are any secondary sources that might be helpful in your situation. So here we've seen in Westlaw and in Lexis how you can find a relevant statute. You either have the statute citation, it's either given to you in your assignment or given to you by someone else. You look it up, how you can then find cases that have cited your statute, because those statutes are annotated and they list cases, the notes of decisions. Both Lexis and Westlaw have that capability. How you can then find a case that seems relevant from that list, go to that case, and then using the head note that seems relevant, find more cases on the same topic. We showed how you could get from the statute a list to other references and resources, including links to secondary sources. Westlaw had links to Ohio jurisprudence. Lexis didn't, but Lexis had links to some pleading and practice forms. We also talked about what if you didn't know what secondary sources were available for your state. You'd want to limit it to your state. So you would click Ohio in either Westlaw or Lexis, look at what secondary sources are available, click on the Ohio jurisprudence, and then you could either drill down through the table of contents, or you could do a full text search with the search terms that we talked about. So this information should help you be successful in your research on your memo assignment, and it will also move us forward in our legal research class. Thanks, and I'll see you on Friday.